And she had a talent for breaking her nose. Once she swam into the side of a swimming pool with her nose, and once she fell down the stairs on her nose. Once I knocked over a table on her nose. It was just that kind of a nose.
Got it. Well, I can see that Carlotta is tough because you know what it's like to be tough. Carlotta also has an interesting cast of characters that you have created to go with her, which I can imagine might cause you some problems when you're writing and that you have to remember who they are and what they're up to. But could you describe some of them?
Well, first I have to tell you that they are giving me a lot of trouble because people come into my books, but they never leave. It's somewhat the way that it is in my house. People come into my house and they never leave. When I started, I knew that a character needs a past as well as the opportunity for a future. And I wanted her to not be in the tradition of the male loner American private eye. I wanted her to be more in the tradition of a cop. Cops have families, but I didn't want her to be stuck with her birth family. I wanted her to be able to select people for her family. And one of her earliest selections was a very young post-punk artist named Roz, who dyes her hair more often than Carlotta shampoos her hair, and who has her own body is her best canvas. That's really what I can say about Roz. Her hair, her tattoos. I'm not going to let her near a piercing studio because I'm really afraid of what she would do. She has a real function in the books, and not just as a sidekick, although she is becoming more of a sidekick, which is very surprising to me. But she was there to be really in left field so that Carlotta would look more conservative than she actually is. Mm-hmm. Roz brings home a new guy every night. She is a pickup artist. And when Carlotta has a new lover, people just accept that. You know, she has him during the entire book at least, even through several books. And here's Roz coming home with the man du jour. And that makes Carlotta look okay. So Roz is really important. Then I have the cab dispatcher, who I first heard her voice. And that happens to me a lot. I hear, I shouldn't talk about this, but I hear characters' voices.
Seems to work for you.
Voices are very important to me. I think I fell in love with my husband's voice long before I ever saw him.
Really?
Yes. This is probably another thing I shouldn't be talking about. But I really do respond to voices. And there are people that I call their answering machines, you know?
Just to
listen?
I do that too.
Oh, this is really strange.
Kinky.
Absolutely bizarre. And I fell in love with this wonderful Detroit voice that I remembered. This mellow, African-American, deep, gospel-singing voice. And I gave it to Gloria, and then I thought, well, Carlotta will have this picture of her as this marvelous Motown, you know, sequined Diana Ross person. But instead, she is a very heavy woman in a wheelchair. So I like the unexpected as well. And then there are the men in Carlotta's life. There's Mooney, the cop, who is very important because he's the guy, he's the good guy. He's the one that if she had any sense, she would marry that guy.
But we know she doesn't.
She has no sense when it comes to men. And I find that, alas, to be realistic. Many of my friends, while absolutely top-notch intellectually, top-notch socially, have no sense when it comes to finding a mate. Or no desire when it comes to finding a mate. And Carlotta shares that, you know, she says that if there's chemistry between me and a guy, I know it's wrong. And that she goes ahead and blunders into this situation. That's how she got involved with the other man in her books.
Who is Sam?
Sam Gianelli, a son of the mob, but he's trying to live down that rep.
He's a good son, isn't he?
He is the good son. And right now he is the wounded good son. And I know that in the book that I'm working on, he needs to come back, and we need to do some resolving of earlier situations. And I'm working on that. And then I hear from all sorts of people, you know, don't get rid of Sam.
Well, you'll hear that from me. I'm extremely partial to Sam. But I figured you'd sidelined him with a wound instead of killing him just to get him out of the way in this series, which I applaud, because then at least we have the option of recovery.
Yes, we do have the option of recovery.
Plus, in your new book, Cold Case, which is, in fact, the red book up in the front, which has brought you to us, she has another love life, but I can see that he's perhaps going out the door.
He's gone. He's history.
Sneaky of you. But how else do you keep a series moving, in fact, if you're going to have romantic tension, if the character needs to be related? It's very difficult to work out that arrangement. If you get them married, you have, and there are different approaches to it. I just gave a very good review to a book by Erlene Fowler, who has written 4, I think, at the moment, and elected to marry off her sleuths, one of whom is a cop and one of whom is an amateur, so they sort of need that, you know, synthesis in order to make her interaction with crime believable. But what she's chosen to do is marry them off, but make so much tension between them that the marriage is more exciting than dating. And the best part is that the context of it is that it is a forever commitment. So it's not like you're reading it wondering when they're going to court. You're reading it entirely in a context of how will they resolve this, because you know that they're going to stay together. And that adds, I think, a very interesting, Jan Burke has done that with her Irene Kelly.
Yes.
And that's sort of a different way of tackling the problem of a continuing relationship that doesn't go stale. And it seems to work in those books. But for Carlotta, I don't see that's a remarkably good, I mean, for one thing, she's driving a cab in the middle of the night and whatever it is. It doesn't necessarily lead to a happy home life.
No.
And I like the way you have brought people in and out of her life but had a constant thread. I don't actually want to know where it's going, to tell you the truth, because I think that's part of the excitement.
That's good. You know, I find out where it's going as I write. And I truly do not know if Carlotta will ever marry again. It's not out of the realm of possibility. It would surprise me at this time. But, you know, who knows what she may do.
And interestingly enough, if I can digress into the personal, this is no sense autobiographical. You've been married for years to the same man, the only husband, right?
That's
not the recent or the late agent, but in fact, the same husband. And you have, what, a teenage son?
No, I have a little son.
Is he
I've
little?
been married longer than most people, and then I have a 7-year-old.
I didn't realize he was that young. But in any case, you know, you're obviously not writing from what you know in the sense of fractured relationships, since your own appears to be well put together.
No.
And I find that interesting too, because sometimes I think that does reflect people's personal experience. But with you, it's a literary choice, obviously.
Yes, absolutely a literary choice. And I find that people confuse the perpetrator, the author, with the character.